Well, hello and a very warm welcome back to the channel. And tonight I'm continuing with my recent theme of everyday nightscapes. These are the sort of nightscape images that you can capture without having to go on a really epic adventure. So more suited perhaps for midweek, or if it's difficult to get out for long periods of the time, or perhaps you don't drive. And I've come to the very edge of the village in which I live, on the edge of the Cambridgeshire Fens. I'm so close to home. I think if I shouted and my wife was in the garden, she would probably hear me, really that close, just outside. And I found on a walk, trying to explore footpaths I don't usually go down, just a few weeks ago, this old horse shelter. I'm reluctant to say stable because I'm not sure it's quite as stable, but this is a paddock through which a footpath goes, and I think this makes quite an interesting structure for a foreground that can be light painted and really will sort of show it off nicely with that lovely corrugated iron and the timber structure there. The sky subject for tonight is simply the Milky Way sort of upper core to Great Rift region above it, which will be plummeting down once it gets dark in about half an hour's time, on a really good sort of angle with the side of the shelter here. I'm also going to just pop over to the other side of the paddock. There's a field where there is a lone tree. Now, we don't get many lone trees around this part of the world, but I managed to find, well, it's not the prettiest of trees, but it's a lone tree, and I think it will make quite an interesting composition for some star trails tonight, which will double up as well as a possible time-lapse for the Northern Lights, because the data tonight is looking quite good. Not amazing, but definitely the chance of getting something at mid latitudes if the magnetic field orientation flips the right way for us. So I'm only planning to be out for maybe 90 minutes, couple of hours, something like that, depending on whether the aurora kicks off. It's great to be out on a nice, relaxed midweek evening. Thanks very much indeed for joining me. Let's get on with it. Just before I get started tonight, I'm going to kick off doing something which, depressingly, I'm finding I'm having to do in more of the places I go to, even places in the middle of nowhere, and that is just go around the location I'm in collecting rubbish. I've started carrying with me in my camera bag just a refuse sack, so I can just pick these things up and shove them in the car afterwards and just take them somewhere else. But obviously the reason I'm doing this isn't because I'm saving the planet, it's because it's ruining my composition. But I'm sure some of you have come across this little stuff as well. So just a fact of life, unfortunately. I've got some beer bottles, cans of Guinness. I mean, I'd be lying if I said when I was a kid I didn't used to hang around in places like this drinking as well. But I think I was brought up well enough that I used to take my rubbish with me. Maybe I didn't. I reckon I did. So I think you kind of get the idea for this shot. I've chosen to shoot it at 24mm, and that I'm probably going to do a 2-frame Vertorama, one for the foreground and then one for the sky. And hopefully that will give me quite a lot of the sky, because I think something that looks always very dramatic about the Great Rift and Cygnus region is just how it just keeps going on and on and on at this time of year, right above your head and arching over to the northeast. So initially the camera is pointing quite low down at the ground, so I've got a bit of the grass here, and then the horse shelter behind it. And then when I come to do the sky, I'll do a landscape image of the sky. I'll get the star tracker out and do a few track shots. There's a bit of light pollution in that direction, so it's not going to be the most amazing, mind-blowing Milky Way, but this is a Monday night in September at quite a busy time of year, so it's probably the best I'm going to get right now. And just reviewing a test shot there, this is at ISO 6400, a 30-second exposure, and I'm at f2.8, so I stopped down that Sigma 24mm a little bit. It's actually looking great. I do think light painting it will create a lot more pop on this structure, but even with the ambient light that is around here, it's looking like quite a nice image. Well, just before I do those light painted shots, I'm going to take preemptive action against the possibility of dew tonight, because the temperature is dropping quite rapidly and there's already quite a lot of dampness on the ground. And if you've watched the channel for a bit, you'll know that this is often an area in which I get caught out. So once bitten, twice shy tonight, or perhaps more accurately, about 10 times bitten, twice shy. But that's enough of that. Let's get some light painting done. Well, overall, I probably got 5 or 6 different shots there, which I think will be useful. I think there's enough there, certainly, to blend something nice in post-production. I think it's time to get on with my sky shots. So just before I get going on my composition here, I'm just trying to refine focus with probably the brightest star in the sky right now, which is Vega, almost directly above me. So I'm just zooming in on live view at 10 times on Vega, getting it as sharp as I possibly can. That'll do, I think, and then I can get my composition. Okay, I think that's looking reasonably good. I've actually had to stop the aperture here down to f4 just because the horizon's very bright there. So I've got a minute exposure at f4 and ISO 800. Histogram looks okay. I'll stack as many as I can of those. So quick run through the kit that I'm using. The camera is an Astro modified Canon 6D. I use it for the vast majority of my tracked sky shots. The lens is a Sigma Art 24mm f1.4 lens, very much a workhorse of mine. Use it all the time. 24mm is a great wide field focal length for Astro. All that is sitting on top of the Move Shoot Move Nomad tracker. Really good portable lightweight star tracker. Don't forget, you can save 5% off this Nomad tracker, and in fact any Move Shoot Move products, by going to their website and using the offer code PAUL. Doing that also helps out the channel a little bit as well. And I've got that Nomad tracker sitting on the wedge that comes with it, and also a panning base that I bought from Move Shoot Move as well, which I find a little bit easier to use than the azimuth adjustments that sit on the Nomad itself. I'm using a cheap intervalometer as well, which I purchased off Amazon. I'm guessing it cost about 25 or 30 quid, a lot cheaper than the official wired ones that you can get from Canon. This has lasted a lot longer than the Canon ones as well. So pretty much my stock setup. Now, without doubt, one of the advantages of being quite close to home is being able to bring a hip flask with you, guilt-free. Well, I know I've said it before on, I think probably my last video in the Pyrenees, but I get so excited this time of year when I can see the Pleiades rising. And that's, I think, the first time I've seen them rising whilst being out shooting from the UK this year. It's a really clear night. I can see right from Perseus, the Milky Way, arching up through Cassiopeia, really bright as it goes through Cygnus. I can see lots of structure in Cygnus, even though I'm only 8 miles outside the city of Cambridge. And then it keeps its structure going through the Great Rift. Starts to lose it a bit as I start hitting the murk on the horizon just south of Aquila, but it's certainly a very clear, transparent night here in this part of the UK. I'll be very interested to see later on whether I caught any aurora on that Star Trails image. Certainly from the Norfolk coast earlier, there was a burst of red beams that were captured. I'm a bit concerned that my exposure and my ISO on that Star Trails image might be a bit low to catch the aurora. I've kept it low to preserve the colour of the stars, but that might also mean I fail to get the slightly fainter aurora. We'll have to see. Gorgeous to be out so casually, so nearby to home. Okay, well, I think they're looking quite good. I reckon I got somewhere between 20 and 25 60-second exposures there. I did consider doing some H-alpha shots as well, but really the framing of this shot is a little bit further south than those lovely H-alpha regions in Cygnus, so I'm not sure I would get the benefit, but also that's not really in keeping with the ethos of these everyday nightscape adventures, which is to keep everything really simple and chilled, not time consuming, just to take advantage of those little windows of opportunity that we sometimes get in between the busyness of life, or in this country in between the clouds as well. So I've really enjoyed this evening. I'd love to hear whether you also have been exploring some of your local patches and what you might have got up to with some of your everyday nightscapes as well. So do let me know in the comments if you've been on some local adventures recently. I'm certainly going to keep up this style of adventure, get to know my local patch a little bit more. It's really encouraged me on the long walks that I like to take, to sort of explore some of the paths that I've not either taken before or taken very recently, and try to find interesting foregrounds like I was able to this evening. So I'm going to intersperse those with some of the more further afield epic adventures, which I think you know I really love as well. But I've had a super evening. If you got this far, thank you very much indeed for joining. I'll put up on the screen the efforts from tonight in a little bit. Hope it turns out okay, and I look forward to seeing you on another Nightscape adventure very soon.